The scream of expensive brakes on gravel cut through the trees like a knife. I had one hand on the cabin door frame, the other on a 5-gallon gas can, listening to the old well pump cough and die again. The air smelled like fresh-cut pine and cold metal, the kind of cold that makes screws squeal when you turn them. A black SUV slid sideways into my drive and stopped too close to the porch. It did not belong on this mountain. The paint was too clean, the tires too pretty. A woman stepped out like she was stepping onto a stage she did not want. She wore a baseball cap, dark hair loose under it, a white tank under an open flannel shirt. A duffel bag hung off one shoulder. The bag looked heavy. She looked like she had carried heavier things before. She took one long look at the cabin, then at me, then at the snowbank that had swallowed half my truck tire. "You're Beck Blackwood?" she asked. "Depends who's asking," I said. She adjusted her grip on the strap. The leather creaked. "Elena Corvus. The Trust sent me." The Trust. A paper word with real teeth. The Corvus Family Trust owned this land, this cabin, and the list of repairs I was working through. I stared past her to the SUV. Tinted windows. Engine still running. Someone inside watching. "Elena," I said, "your driver can turn around. This road is a dead end." Her jaw tightened. "He's not my driver." "Then he can still turn around," I said. She did not look back. She did not have to. The SUV rolled down a little, then stopped at the bottom of the drive like it had decided to judge us from there. Elena exhaled through her nose, slow and controlled. "My family dumped me here to learn a lesson," she said. I set the gas can down. My gloves squeaked on the metal. "What lesson?" I asked. She glanced at the cabin again. Her eyes caught on the rotting corner log and the sagging gutter. "That. I can't buy my way out of problems," she said. I looked at her clean city shoes, at the SUV that cost more than my last 3 winters, at the duffel that did not match any of this snow and wood. "Then let me tell you the first rule," I said. "You don't break in my snow." Quote, "Blackwood Ridge sits high enough that storms make their own rules. Phones lie. Forecasts guess. The mountain decides. The cabin was not mine. It belonged to the Corvus Trust. The trustees hired me to keep it from falling into the trees. Winterize. Replace rotten logs. Fix the well pump. Patch the roof before the next blizzard sealed us in." I had been living out of my truck in the mudroom for a week, sleeping in a bag that smelled like diesel and smoke. Elena stepped onto the porch like she had never walked on wood that could flex under her weight. "You're staying here?" she asked, eyes moving over my tools and stacked lumber. "I'm working here," I said. "That's the same thing." "Not where I'm from," I said. Her gaze slid to the open pump access panel and the wet crescent on the floor, where the pump had spit water then given up. Her face stayed hard, but I saw the flicker of worry. "The well works?" she asked. "It will," I said. "How soon?" "When I'm done," I said. The SUV door opened down the drive. A man got out in a suit coat, no hat, dress shoes in the snow. His phone was out like it could scare the weather. Elena's shoulders went rigid, but her hands stayed busy on the duffel. "Who's that?" I asked. "My father's insurance guy," she said. "Or his lawyer, depends on the day." He did not make it 3 steps before he slipped on the ice. I had not had time to salt. He caught himself on the fender of my truck and glared at me like I had placed the mountain there just to be rude. I walked down the steps and met him halfway. "Denton, Mr. Corvus's office," he said, holding out a hand. I did not take it. "Road's bad," I said. "You shouldn't be here." He looked over my shoulder at Elena. "She shouldn't either," he said. Elena's voice came sharp from the porch. "I'm fine, Denton." He ignored her. "My job is to document the condition of the property. Liability, if she gets hurt, if you can film it from the county road," I said, calm. His eyes narrowed. "This is trust property." "And this is my work site," I said. "You want to argue? Call the trustee. Otherwise, walk back down the drive before you break your hip." Quote, a battered Ford rumbled up behind him, Sam, my foreman, with a chainsaw on the back and snow on the hood. He rolled down his window and looked Denton over like he was a broken fence post. "Beck," "Who's the city fellow?" Sam asked. "Lost?" "Maybe," I said. Sam sniffed the air. "Storm's coming," he said. "He'll learn." Denton's face went pink. He slid back down the drive, phone held out like a shield. The SUV turned and left. Elena watched them go. Her chin stayed high. Her eyes did not. When Sam pulled up to the porch, he tipped his hat. "Ma'am." Elena nodded once, tight. "Hi." Sam's gaze flicked to her duffel, her cap, the empty drive. He leaned close to me and muttered, "That trouble?" "Maybe," I said. "Smells like money," he said. "Money always brings trouble." "I heard that," Elena called. Sam shrugged. "Then you heard right." By afternoon, freezing rain turned to wet snow. The sky went the color of a bruise. The trees creaked when the wind leaned on them. I was in the pump closet with a headlamp on, sleeves rolled, forearms wet, listening to the motor strain. The pressure gauge jittered like a nervous eye. Elena stood in the doorway, arms crossed, pretending she was not cold. The cabin was barely warmer than outside. The old stove could not be trusted until I fixed the chimney. "You said the water would be back," she said. "I said it will," I answered. "That's not an answer," she shot back. I cut the breaker. The pump went quiet. Outside, the storm sounded louder. I pulled the suction line apart. The smell of iron and old algae hit me. The gasket in my fingers was brittle and cracked. "This is why you don't have water," I said, holding it up. "See that crack?" Elena stepped closer without thinking. I caught a faint citrus scent under the cold and pine. "That tiny thing?" she asked. "It's not tiny when it's between you and drinking," I said. She let out a short breath, then grabbed the brim of her cap like she needed something to hold. "Can you fix it?" she asked, softer now. "I can," I said, "but I need parts." "Then order them." "Roads closing," I said. "Trucks won't get up here for days." She looked past me at the empty shelves, blinked once, fast, then turned her face away so the porch light would not catch the shine in her eyes. "I can't stay here without water," she said. "You can," I said. "You just don't want to." Her gaze snapped back to mine. "You don't know what I want?" I held up the cracked gasket again. "I know you want this fixed." "So do I. We're going to do it the ugly way." Her eyes narrowed. "What's the ugly way?" I pulled a strip of old leather from my bag and a tube of sealant. "We make our own," I said. By nightfall, the cabin smelled like glue and wet wool. Snow slapped the windows. Sam had taken the truck back down before the road turned to glass. The SUV was gone. No more suits, no more cameras. Elena watched as I cut the leather and punched holes, her elbows tight to her sides. Her hands shook just a little. "You do this for a living?" she asked. "I do what needs doing," I said. "That's not a living," she murmured. I set the homemade gasket, tightened the bolts, and flipped the breaker. The pump grumbled, spit, then caught. The pressure needle climbed. Water rushed through the pipes. Elena walked to the sink and turned the tap. Rust, then clear. She held her hands under the stream like she did not trust it. Her eyes closed for half a second, her shoulders dropping. "You're welcome," I said. She opened her eyes. "How much?" she asked. "For what?" "For tonight, for the water." "You're paying the contract through the trust," I said. "That covers this." "That's not tonight," she insisted. She reached into her duffel and pulled out a small box, opened it. A heavy watch glowed against the dark lining. "Take this," she said. "It's clean. It's mine. No strings." I did not touch it. "I don't need favors," I said. "I need a bill," she said, voice tight. "Write it down. Materials, labor, all of it." I watched her hands shake, then I nodded once. "Fine," I said. "Then you work." Her eyes flashed. "Excuse me?" "You want to pay?" I said. "You earn your way into the work. You don't stand in my doorway and throw jewelry at problems." I pointed at the dust mask hanging on a nail. "You sand logs tomorrow?" I said. "You wear that. You do it my way." Elena stared at me like no one had talked to her like that in a long time. Then a small, sharp smile touched her mouth. "Deal," she said. The next morning I knew she had meant it when she said, "Deal." At first light, the mountain was quiet and white. I stepped onto the porch with my coffee and saw her already there, standing by the stacked logs in my old work boots that were a size too big, mask hanging loose around her neck, hair tucked under her cap. "You're early," I said. "You said sand logs," she answered. "You didn't give me a time." I handed her a pair of gloves. "Then we start now," I said. I showed her how to brace the beam, how to hold the sander so it did not kick. She listened with that sharp focus I usually only saw in men trying to prove themselves on a job site. The first pass was rough. The belt jumped. Her arm jerked. "Let the tool work," I said. "You don't have to fight it." "I'm not fighting it," she snapped. I raised a brow. She adjusted her grip and tried again. This time, the belt stayed steady. Fine curls of old wood fell at her boots. She watched them with a strange look, like she had never earned dirt under her nails before. By mid-morning, her shoulders shook from the effort. Her hairline was damp with sweat under the cap. Dust clung to her lashes in a light brown line. She did not complain. When her hands blistered, she wrapped them in tape and kept going. At lunch, I pulled the sander from her hands. "Enough," I said. Her eyes flashed. "I can keep working." "I know," I said. "That's why I'm stopping you. I still need you useful tomorrow." She exhaled, tried to hide the relief in her face, and failed. I pretended not to see it. Inside, the cabin smelled like fresh pine and coffee. I put a pan on the small propane stove and heated soup straight from the can. It was not good. It was hot. She sat at the table with her elbows pulled in like she was trying not to take up space. When I set the bowl in front of her, she stared at it. "I didn't pay for this," she said. "You will," I said. "In labor." Her mouth twitched. "That how it works up here?" "That's how it works with me," I said. She picked up the spoon. The first bite burned her tongue. I saw it in the way she flinched and swallowed anyway. "It's terrible," she said. "Calories," I answered. She huffed a small sound that might have been a laugh. After we ate, I went back to the pump. She went to her duffel and pulled out her laptop. The cheap hotspot blinked on the table. 1 bar, then none, then 1 again. She opened files, spreadsheets, contracts. Her shoulders tensed in a way sanding had not caused. "You working?" I asked. "Apparently my lesson does not pause email," she said. I watched her fingers fly over the keys. The business world followed her all the way up the ridge. It did not care about blizzards. Toward evening, the sky changed. The light went flat, too fast. The kind of light that means bad weather without needing a forecast. "Storm's coming," I said. She looked up from the screen and listened. The wind in the trees had a different sound now, deeper, pushing harder. "We'll be fine," she said. "You will," I said, "if you listen." We checked the generator, topped the fuel, cleared the snow away from the intake. I checked the stovepipe and the draft. It pulled clean. For now. By dark, the snow hit full force. It did not float. It slammed. The cabin walls hummed with wind. I could feel the old logs flex. "You've lived like this long?" she asked. "Long enough," I said. She stood at the window and watched the white out. Her reflection in the glass looked younger without the cap, more tired, more honest. "My father used to bring us here," she said, "when I was small." "Before he locked it in a trust?" I asked. Her jaw tightened. "Before he decided everything is a tool," she said. "Including you," I thought, but I did not say it. Later, I stretched out in my sleeping bag in the mudroom, fully dressed. I do not sleep deep in storms. The house talks. You listen. Somewhere between one heartbeat and the next, I woke up to a wrong feeling. The air was heavy and dull. The generator outside coughed low. The smell in the room was not just wood smoke. It was thicker, stale. My head throbbed behind my eyes. "Damn," I muttered. I threw off the sleeping bag and pushed into the main room. The stove glowed, but the smoke was not going up the pipe. Thin gray fingers drifted into the room. The draft had turned in the wind. "Elena?" I called. No answer. Cold hit my chest that had nothing to do with the air. I crossed to the small bedroom and hit the door with my shoulder. It flew open. She sat on the floor next to the cold hearth, back against the wall, knees pulled to her chest. Her laptop was open on the bed, screen still glowing. A spreadsheet filled half of it. The other half showed an email draft. Her eyes were unfocused, like she was halfway out of the room. "Elena," I said. She turned her head slowly, like it weighed too much. "I'm fine," she whispered. Her skin was pale, lips slightly parted, breath shallow. Fine was a lie. "You're not," I said. I grabbed her wrist. Her pulse fluttered fast and weak under my fingers. "Up," I said. She tried to stand. Her legs gave. I wrapped an arm around her waist and pulled her up against me. Her hands grabbed at my sleeve, then fisted in it tightly. "Don't," she started. "I've got you," I said. The main room was a haze of faint smoke. I yanked the front door open with my free hand. The wind punched us in the chest. Snow spun into the cabin, sharp and clean. I hauled her onto the porch. The cold hit her face and she sucked in a breath like she had been underwater. "Sit," I said. She slid down with her back against a porch post, still gripping my sleeve. "What about you?" she asked, voice thin. "I have things to fix," I said. I went back inside, lungs burning. I shut down the stove, wrenched open the flue, forced the draft back. I grabbed a CO detector from my tool bag, slapped batteries in and held it up. The alarm screamed a high, sharp sound that cut through the storm noise. Confirmation of what my head already knew. Outside, the generator coughed again. If it died, the pump would freeze, the pipes would burst, and everything we had fixed would crack. I pulled on my coat and boots and stepped into the storm. The generator sat behind a swollen drift, half buried. Snow clogged its intake. Exhaust blew straight toward the cabin, because the wind had shifted. My fingers went numb as I cleared the vents and shoveled snow away. I dragged the generator 2 feet into a better pocket and turned it so the exhaust shot away from the house. I stacked plywood and logs as a crude windbreak. The wind tried to steal every breath from me. When I pulled the starter cord, it fought. Once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th pull, it roared, back to life. My nose stung. When I wiped it, my hand came away red. By the time I made it back to the porch, the world felt slightly tilted. Elena watched me from where she sat. Her eyes were clearer now, her cheeks flushed from cold. "You're bleeding," she said. "It's the cold," I answered. "Your hands," she added, looking at my raw knuckles. I looked down. The skin was opened in thin lines, blood mixing with old scars and fresh dirt. "Occupational hazard," I said. I wanted to tell her she should go in, but the cabin still needed to breathe. I left the door cracked and the windows open a few inches to clear the air. The room would lose heat, but we would keep breathing. I sat on the porch beside her, leaving a few inches of space. The snow blew sideways beyond the small pool of light. For a while, we just sat and listened to the storm. "I didn't notice the smell," she said quietly. "I was reading the settlement terms. I thought my headache was stress." "It was the gas," I said. "Your body was trying to tell you to get out." She looked at me, eyes serious. "You did," she said. "You got me out." I shrugged one shoulder. "Storm does half the teaching up here," I said. "I just listen." Her hand slid from my sleeve to my forearm, fingers light but sure. It was the first time she touched me without bracing herself. "Thank you," she said. It was simple, no edge, no control in it, just gratitude. We stayed on the porch until my teeth started to knock. When the CO detector inside went quiet, I shut the door and closed the windows. The cabin filled with the softer sound of the wind outside and the steady hum of the generator. Later, as we checked the stove and moved our bedding closer to the safest wall, she looked at me over the top of her mug. "You teach like you're angry," she said again. "I teach like I want you alive," I said. Her eyes held mine a second longer than they needed to. "Then, keep teaching," she murmured. The storm kept pounding the ridge, but something in the space between us shifted that night. She was not just the rich woman sent to learn a lesson. And I was not just the man hired to keep her walls standing. We were stuck on a mountain, sharing air, work, and now a near miss with death. And the lesson her family wanted her to learn was not the one she was actually learning. The days after the storm fell into a hard kind of rhythm. In the morning, I checked the generator, the pump, the stovepipe. I walked the roofline and listened for any wrong sounds in the old wood. Then we worked. Elena sanded logs until the new faces of the wood showed clean and bright. She wore the mask without me having to remind her now. Her hands were taped where the blisters had split. She moved slower, but she did not quit. "You can stop," I told her once. "So can you," she said. Fair enough. At lunch, we ate whatever I could heat on the stove: soup, eggs, dry toast. It was not pretty, but it kept us standing. She always tried to pay for it in the same way. "What do I owe you for today?" she asked. "You already paid," I said. "You did your hours. I used your water, your fuel, your food. You also used my sander," I said. "Call it even." At night, the cabin changed. The tools went quiet. The air warmed. The storm sounds faded into a steady hum. That was when her other life came out. She sat at the table with her laptop in that weak little hotspot. The light from the screen lit her face in a way the fire never had. She looked younger there, also older, the kind of tired that does not come from lifting boards. She scrolled through documents, zoomed in on numbers, wrote in a yellow legal pad with neat, tight printing. I walked past once and glanced at the top line. "Term sheet, Corvus/Global Freight Merger," it said. "You're working on your father's deal up here?" I asked. "I'm working on his trap," she said. Her voice was calm, but the pen in her hand tapped a little too fast. "I thought he sent you to learn humility," I said. "He sent me to be quiet," she replied. "I don't do quiet well." I watched her for a second. The mountain had stripped away the expensive edges. There was no makeup now, no perfect clothes, no city glow. Just a woman in worn flannel and my old boots, frowning at contracts by lantern light. "You have service for that?" I asked. "Barely," she said. "Just enough to download, not enough to gossip." "Lucky for you," I said. One clear afternoon, between smaller snow showers, we were up on the roof, breaking ice off the gutter line with flat bars. The sky was bright and hard. The air felt sharp in my lungs. I heard the engines before I saw them. Not Sam's truck. Too smooth. Two newer pickups crawled up the road and stopped at the bottom of the drive. Two men got out. Hard hats, company windbreakers, clipboards. One of them had a small camera strapped to his chest. Elena went still beside me. Her fingers tightened around the bar. "Who are they?" I asked. "Compliance," she said. "Or my father's messengers. Same thing." I climbed down the ladder before they could reach the steps. Snow crunched under my boots as I met them halfway. "Can I help you?" I asked. "Beck Blackwood?" Clipboard asked. "That's me," I said. "We're here on behalf of Corvus Global," he said. "Site inspection, property risk assessment." He flipped his folder open like it was a badge. "You don't have a county permit for that," I said. "This is a contracted restoration site. You need permission from me or from the trustee." Chest Camera smiled like he had done this 100 times. "We don't need one," he said. "This is trust property." I didn't move. I didn't smile. "And I am under contract with that trust," I said, "which means this is my work site. You step on my porch without permission, you become my problem, not just theirs." Clipboard's eyes flicked past me to the roof. "Miss Corvus," he called. "We just need a few minutes. Standard safety protocol." Elena stepped to the edge of the porch roof, crowbar still in her hand. The wind tugged at her flannel. "Standard for who?" she asked. "For the family," Clipboard said. "For your safety." "My safety," she repeated. Her voice was soft, but I felt the anger in it. I stepped a half step sideways so my shoulder blocked the bottom of the steps. "Camera off," I said to Chest Camera. He smiled a little wider. "Or what?" he asked. "Or you leave," I said. "Now." Clipboard's jaw tightened. "Mr. Blackwood, we can make this difficult," he said. "Your permits, your contracts." I pulled my phone from my pocket and raised it. I took a clear picture of both trucks and both faces. I let him see me do it. "And I can make it criminal trespass," I said, still calm. "I have your plates and your faces. Next is the sheriff." They looked at the phone like it had more power than my words. Behind me, Elena spoke, voice cold and sharp. "And if you're here on behalf of Corvus Global," she said, "tell my father something for me." Clipboard blinked. "What would you like us to tell him?" he asked. "Tell him I've been reading his merger documents," she said. "And I'm not learning his lesson. I'm learning his math." The wind gusted. For a moment, no one spoke. Chest camera shifted. His smile slipped. Clipboard swallowed. "We'll reschedule," he said finally. "No," I replied. "You'll leave." They did, slowly, watching us like they still expected us to break. But they left. When the trucks disappeared around the bend, I turned back to the porch. Elena was still standing there, crowbar in hand. Her shoulders were stiff, eyes fixed on the road even though there was nothing there now. "You didn't have to do that," she said without looking at me. "I did," I said. "They weren't here to protect you. They were here so you would feel alone." She looked down at me. Something in her face softened and sharpened at the same time. "I'm not alone," she said quietly. The next big blizzard hit 2 nights later. Not the hard, violent kind like before, but slow and heavy. The snow kept falling and did not stop. The road closed. Sam called on the radio to say no one was going anywhere for a while. We worked anyway. We checked the roof, the pump, the stove. At night, the cabin felt smaller but safer. The CO detector stayed silent. I checked it twice anyway. Elena sat at the table with her laptop as the wind howled outside. The hotspot blinked. She cursed at it, then laughed once at herself for caring. "What are you doing exactly?" I asked, nodding at the screen. "Audit," she said. "Of what?" "My father's deal," she said. "He used the trust as collateral without telling anyone. He parked risk where he thought no one would look." "Here," I said. "Here," she agreed. Her fingers moved over the keys, pulling numbers from one file to another, matching dates, tracing lines. "I thought they dumped you here to get you out of the way," I said. "They did," she said. "They forgot I can work from anywhere." She opened a new document. I saw the title at the top. "Injunction Draft, Corvus Trust versus Corvus Global," it read. "You're going to court?" I asked. "I'm sending our attorney everything he needs," she said. "Board minutes, drafts, side letters. If my father wants to play games with the trust, he can do it in front of a judge." Quote. I watched her circle 3 numbers on the legal pad. She traced around them with the tip of her pen again and again, like they were a target. "What are those?" I asked. "Debt covenants," she said. "He breaks those, the lenders get spooked. He can't risk that. So he gives me what I want, or I pull the alarm." "What do you want?" I asked. She looked up at me, eyes dark and clear. "Clean title," she said. "Freedom from the trust. This cabin in my name. No more leash." The stove popped. Snow hit the window in soft thumps. The mountain listened. "You're going to trade his own math back at him," I said. "Yes," she said, "and he is going to hate that I learned it on a ridge in boots that don't fit me." I did not smile, but I felt something warm in my chest that had nothing to do with the fire. Later that night, after she sent another long email and cursed the upload speed, she closed the laptop and just sat there. No screens, no numbers. "What?" I asked. She shrugged one shoulder. "I keep thinking about what happens after," she said. "After what?" I asked. "After I win," she said, like it was not even a question anymore. "Then you go back," I said. "Big office, city lights, good coffee." She studied my face. "And you?" she asked. "I keep working," I said. "Cabins do not fix themselves." Her mouth curved. "You turned down that Montana contract," she said. "Sam told me." It was real money. "I've had real money," I said. "It leaves." "So what are you building?" she asked. "Something that stays," I said. "Something I can look at and say I did that. With my own hands." Her eyes dropped to my hands. The skin was split and rough. Scars crossed my knuckles like old maps. "You're not doing all this because you want me," she said quietly. I stepped closer, slow, so she could move away if she wanted. She did not. "I do want you," I said. My voice came out rougher than I planned. "But I'm not here to buy you or save you. You're already saving yourself." Her breath caught. Her fingers curled around the edge of the table like she needed something to hold on to. "Then why are you here?" she asked. "Because when you walked out of that SUV, you looked like someone who had never been allowed to stand on her own ground," I said. "And I wanted to see what you would build if it was actually yours." Silence stretched between us. It was not empty. It was full of storm wind and wood smoke and everything we had not said yet. She stood up slowly. We were close now. Close enough that I could see the small freckles on her cheek, the tired lines at the corner of her eyes. Her gaze drifted to my mouth, then back up. Her hand lifted, hesitated, then settled at my collar, thumb brushing the fabric once. "You're going to hate my father," she said. "I don't waste time hating men who don't show up," I answered. Her mouth twitched. Then her eyes turned serious again. "He's going to show up," she said. I nodded. "Let him," I said. She studied my face one last time like she was checking the frame before she trusted the roof. "Tomorrow," she said, voice low. "If the road opens, the plow brings mail. If he signed what I demanded, my freedom is in that bag." "And if he didn't?" I asked. Her jaw set. "Then I burn the deal to the ground," she said. The mountain hummed around us. The storm moved farther down the valley. Inside the cabin, the air felt tight and electric. Whatever came in that canvas mailbag, it was not just going to change her life. It was going to change mine, too. Sam showed up the next morning the way weather does in the mountains. No warning, just the low rumble of his truck, then the flash of his blue parka through the trees. He stomped up onto the porch, snow on his shoulders, canvas mailbag in one hand, thermos in the other. "Road's open for now," he said. "Figure I'd bring the fun stuff before it closes again." He dropped the bag on the table with a heavy thud. Envelopes slid inside like stacked stones. Lena froze in the doorway. She had a mug in her hand. Her fingers tightened around the handle until her knuckles went white. "That for me?" she asked. Sam nodded. "Two with your name, one with his," he said, jerking his chin at me. "County stuff. No ticking sounds. You're safe." Quote. He winked, then went back outside to check the ridgeline, which meant, "Give us space." I stood on the other side of the table. The room felt smaller. "Which one is it?" I asked. She dug through the bag. Bills, flyers, one thin envelope from a bank. Then she found it. The overnight envelope, with the big firm name on the corner, and her father's world, printed in small, neat letters. She set it down like it might jump. "You want me to open it?" I asked. "No," she said, and I heard the crack in her voice. "If it's bad, I want to be mad at the right person." She slid her thumb under the seal and tore it in one clean motion. Paper slid out, thick and official. The first page was a letter. She skimmed it fast, eyes moving like they were pulling data, not words. Her breath hitched. "What?" I asked. She handed me the letter without speaking. Her finger tapped one line near the top. "Enclosed, please find the executed deed transferring full title of Blackwood Ridge, parcel 47B to Elena Corvus, free and clear of trust encumbrances," it said. Settlement terms, as agreed. Quote, I flipped to the next page. Deed, her name, no trust, no et al., no leash. "It's done," I said. She didn't move. "Elena," I said, softer, "you did it." She set both hands on the table, leaned over the papers, and closed her eyes. For a second, I thought she might cry. She didn't. Her shoulders shook once, then settled. When she opened her eyes, they were wet but bright. "He signed," she said. "He gave up the cabin. He released the trust from the deal. He actually did it." "Because you made not doing it worse," I said. A weak laugh escaped her. "Because I found where it would hurt," she said. "Debt covenants." "Regulatory risk," Public filings. I spoke his language for once. She straightened. Her hand lay flat on the deed. This is mine now, she said, on paper. In fact. And in wood, I said. Don't forget the wood. She looked around the cabin, at the fresh logs, at the patched floor, at the stove I had nearly died fixing, at the well that groaned but worked. This place was supposed to be my punishment, she said. My family dumped me here to learn a lesson. Quote. She looked back at me. Her eyes were not soft, they were clear. Then let me, I said. The words came out low and steady before I could polish them. Let you what? She asked. Be the one who teaches you the right lesson, I said. That you're not something they send up a mountain to fix. That you can build your own ground and decide who stands on it. She stared at me for a long beat. The stove popped. Outside, Sam's chainsaw started somewhere up the slope. You're serious, she said. I don't know how to be anything else, I answered. She swallowed. Her fingers curled over the edge of the deed like she was afraid someone might tug it away. What about you? She asked. You got your own envelope. I pulled mine from the pile. County seal. Thin, cheap paper. I tore it open. Final inspection passed. I read. Permit closed. Occupancy approved. Contractor of record. Blackwood Restoration. I felt something settle in my chest, like a beam dropping onto its posts. Congratulations, she said quietly. Yeah, I said. Guess I'm real now. She smiled. A small private thing. You were real the first time you yelled at the generator, she said. We stood in silence for a moment, both holding proof, her deed. My permit, 2 different doors opening at the same time. Okay, she said at last. Then we need to talk about the next part. What next part? I asked. She went to her duffel and pulled out a blue folder. It was already worn at the edges like she'd opened it 100 times. She laid it on the table between us and flipped it open. Blackwood Restorations, the cover page said. Inside were typed pages. Roles, liability, insurance, profit split, client terms. It was clean and hard and thought through. You drafted this up here, I asked. Up here, she said, between sanding and crying in the pump closet. You cried in the pump closet, I asked. Once, she said. It echoed. It was horrible. I recommend the woods instead. Her mouth twitched. Then she tapped the page about ownership. 50-50, she said. I handle the money, the contracts, the clients, who send compliance spies instead of saying what they want. You handle the work, the crews, the wood, the things that break at 3 a.m. We pick the jobs. We say yes or no. No trust. No board. No father.
And the cabin? I asked.
Her gaze lifted. The cabin is the office, she said, and home, if you want it. I felt the word home hit me harder than it should have. You sure you want me as a partner? I asked. You've seen me yell at pipes. I've also seen you move a generator in a blizzard so I wouldn't die in my sleep, she said. I trust that man more than anyone sitting at a board table. She nudged a pen toward me. This is not a charity deal, she said. I want your name on the work, Beck. I want clients to know if they hire us, they get you, not some polished fake. My hand closed around the pen. It felt heavier than it should. I signed on the line under my printed name. Black ink on white paper. No flourish. She signed next. Her signature looked sharp, like a line of mountains. Partners, she said. Partners, I said. She closed the folder. Set it aside like something settled, not fragile. Then she stepped around the table. The air shifted. She stopped in front of me, closer than client distance. Her hand lifted, fingers brushing the line of my jaw. Rough skin and rougher beard. You're not just my contractor anymore, she said. You know that, right? I figured, I said. Most contractors don't get this many death stares from compliance. She huffed a soft laugh, then her eyes turned serious again. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. Not business, not leverage. This. She gestured small between us. Same way you did the pump, I said. Ugly and honest. One piece at a time. Her lips curved. You make romance sound like plumbing, she said. I make it sound like work, I said. The kind that's worth it. She took a breath like she was about to jump into cold water. "Then here," she said. "This is my first piece." She slid her hand to the back of my neck, pulled me down, and kissed me. It was not careful this time. It was slow and sure and deep. No panic. No storm. No compliance truck at the bottom of the drive. Just heat and the smell of pine and coffee and this woman who had walked up my mountain and decided to stay. My hands went to her waist. Solid grip. Not to hold her in place, but to tell her I was not going anywhere unless she told me to. She didn't. When we finally broke, her forehead rested against mine. Her breath was warm against my mouth. "My family dumped me here to learn a lesson," she said again, softer now, almost a joke. "Yeah," I said. "And you did." "What lesson is that?" she whispered. "That you can build your own life out of old wood and bad paperwork," I said. "And you don't have to do it alone." Her hands tightened in my shirt. Her laugh broke into something that might have been a sob if she had let it. "Stay," she said. "Already here," I replied. Later, when Sam came back in with snow on his boots and a question about the ridge, he found us at the table. Papers spread out. Deed, permit, partnership contract. Coffee mugs. My tool belt hanging on the chair. Her laptop closed for once. He took one look at our faces, at the way her hand rested on my forearm, and shook his head with a slow grin. "Knew this place was worth saving," he said. I glanced at Elena. Her ring finger was still bare, but her hand was steady. "Yeah," I said. "It is." Outside, the snow on the roof settled. Inside, the cabin felt less like a test and more like a beginning.